Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for August 6th through 12th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 1 show, I watched 1 movie, I listened to 2 podcasts, and I listened to 2 books. First this week I finished Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna McGuire. This is the second in the Wayward Children series. A 3rd book has been announced for publication next year, so I can call this a series officially. The Wayward Children series is about a group of children who live in a home for children who have gone over to other worlds and have since returned. Although this is the 2nd book in the series, it acts as a prequel to Every Heart a Doorway because it gives the backstory of Jack and Jill, 2 characters we meet in the 1st book. I would be very happy if all of the books in this series followed the Wayward Children to their different realms, as I enjoy these bite-sized versions of epic fairy tales. This series thus far consists of novellas, so it's a quick read, but it feels complete. There's something captivating about McGuire's style of writing that I can't quite identify, but enjoy. The 2nd book I finished this week was The Fact of the Body by Alexandra Marzano-Lesnovich. If you saw my last video, you know I technically stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning to finish this book, mostly because I didn't want to do back-to-back wrap-ups where I only had 1 physical book to talk about. This book has 2 distinct stories. One, the murder of a 6-year-old boy by a pedophile who has tried his whole life to get help, and the author who identified with many nuances of the murderer's life. At first, I was hesitant about this writing style. I read a book last year that was about 2 historical figures of significance, and the author occasionally inserted their own story, and I found it very off-putting. It wasn't until I got through the first several chapters that I started to realize that this wasn't just the recapping of an author who clearly spent a lot of time with this case, and thus can't seem to write about anything else, but rather a framing device for understanding her own life. This book was difficult to read despite its beautiful prose because it deals with a lot of very heavy subjects. Child abuse, the death of children, sexual assault, murder, and suicide. It was not something where the pages seemed to turn themselves. It was heavy, but it was well worth the time I gave it over the past 2 weeks. It allowed me to see 2 family sagas complexly. If you're going into this because it looks like true crime, you aren't wrong, but you're missing part of the picture. This week in Game of Thrones, we watched the 3rd and 4th seasons. There are so many scenes I remember reading and loving in the books that were represented in these episodes, and I'm sure that we'll get into the 5th season before today ends. This show is incredibly well put together. Even though I'm salty that the 6th book still hasn't come out, I'm excited to watch these 6th and 7th seasons to see how this game ends. This week I could have swore I watched a movie, but there's just these 2 hours from Friday afternoon that I'm just drawing a blank on, as though they never happened. Weird. Probably had a nap. This week I listened to Conversations with People Who Hate Me. Hurt People was the title of this week's episode and was just so aptly named. I rejoice when I find people such as Marin who are or were bullied that turn it around and try to understand why, instead of focusing solely on how they are being hurt. It does not excuse the actions, but I'm always in favor of looking at people complexly as a way to try to understand the world and to try to improve it. Of course, I'm also in favor of people talking about how bullying has affected them directly and giving no regards to the bully's feelings. There's a place for seeing their side, and there's a place for feeling your pain. This week I also listened to some very old, as in from May, episodes of Dear Hank and John, because audiobooks take up the majority of my listening time. These episodes are just building up on my app. This comedy podcast about death will always have a special place in my heart, until, I die. This week I listened to The Carnivorous Carnival and The Slippery Slope by Lemony Snicket. I must say, I thought based on the first handful of novels that this series was going to have the exact same pattern. New guardian, Olaf in disguise, nobody believes the children, they prevail but he escapes. I wouldn't be mad if that were the case, it is a good structure and these are kids' books. But it all gets so much more interesting and complex as the series goes on. These volumes see the Baudelaires separated and united with allies they didn't even know they had, and they come ever closer to figuring out the mystery of VFD. The best possible way to enjoy the text of these books is to have a narrator who does different voices for all of the characters. So I am so grateful to Tim Curry in this regard. I'm excited to see how the forthcoming seasons of the Netflix show will adapt these adventures, because it will be a huge undertaking. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.